Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Shemi Hawashai, Shemakak. And I want to say Shalom to Akhman Aklath out there, pursuing this truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson. And what I just said in the open was giving praises to the Father in the name of the Son, in the name of the Holy Spirit, in the true ancient Hebrew. All right. So what I got here is from Reddit. It's something that popped up, I guess, a day or so on the popular Reddit. And it's something I wanted to rebuke real quick because it's just a stupid thought point. All right. And it says, if it's from this lady, Sarah Schuer. All right. And I guess this is from quite some time ago, but you can see it was posted not too long ago, reposted at least. It says, if God defines sex as between a man and a woman, then when two dudes bone, it's not sex and therefore not a sin. So what this is wordplay. Okay, this is what wordplay is. Now we can go and look up what that is. All right, wordplay. Okay, what is wordplay? All right, definition.
Wordplay.
All right, the witty exploitation of the meanings and ambiguities of words, especially in puns. Okay, a witty exploitation of the meanings and ambiguity of words. There's really not any ambiguity, but it says a literary technique and form of wit in which words used become the main subject of the work. Primarily, well, that's dealing with more of a literary work, but that's a literary technique. In this case, this is a I guess the first way would be really wordplay. All right, a witty exploitation of the meanings and ambiguity of words. And they use the word witty, which goes back to wit, which goes back to intellect, which are quick-witted, sharp-witted, all right, ingenious. And it's really not, because if it was really quick-witted or witty, it would be, not so easily to debate, okay? So they're using wordplay. All right, what they're doing, this lady Sarah, she's using wordplay because she's trying to say if God defines sex, well, first of all, you can stop right there. All right, nowhere in the Bible does it ever technically define what sex is. Okay, so it never says, you're not going to see the physical definition of sex is a man laying down with a woman and putting his rod in. No, it's not going to say that. All right, but it's, as you read the Bible, it's evident. All right, but it's not going to be evident that someone who is not deep diving into the Bible on a regular basis. All right, so if God defines sex as between man and a woman, then when two dudes bone, it's not sex and therefore not a sin. So here, there's a lot going on with this. The first thing is you're saying that biblically there's a definition of sex in there. All right, now it seems to be what you're talking about. Would be Leviticus 18 and 22. All right. But if you were using Leviticus 18 and 22, then you should be able to come to the conclusion that, yes, it is a sin. Okay. So there's a lot of all over the place wordplay here that really doesn't work. All right. It's not really wordplay in a true sense because it should be witty and it's really not. All right. You're just confused and you're not really getting it. So we're going to get a couple scriptures and show you it. And the thought process doesn't really work because by using this same thought process, you could say that, so if God defines sex as between a man and a woman, then when two dudes bone, it's not sex technically, and therefore it's not a sin, right? Because it's not technically sex, it's not a sin, right? Well, you could say, for example, according to the law, all right, we're not allowed to eat certain animals as they're unclean unto us. For example, pork, all right, as it says swine in the scriptures. So you could technically say that if I went and munched on a bunch of pork that I didn't eat, you still ate, all right, by physical definition, you still ate, all right? If you look up the word eat, okay, what does it mean to eat? All right, to put food into the mouth and chew and swallow it. Okay, that's what it means to eat. Okay, but by technical definition, since the Lord defines it is not food, technically, if it's not food, that means when you put it in your mouth, you're not eating. That's too deep. You're being too deep when you need to be one deep. Okay, and that's, you're using these loopholes. You're looking for gray areas. All right, you're using trying to look for ambiguity in the literature, and it's not working out for you. All right, I'm be honest for you. You could use that same argument. Oh, because technically it is unclean, that means you didn't eat. You still eat. You still ate. What you ate was unclean. All right, and what you ate was technically not food. You can still eat plastic. All right, plastic is not food. You can still eat it. Okay, by technical definition. All right, just saying. All right, and what sex is defined as, in this world, you're saying, oh, well, God defined. God never technically defined sex. All right, in a plain way. Okay, you're saying God defines sex. We can even go and ask ChatGPT. All right, no. Does the Bible or God ever define what sex is? And it should say no. No, the Bible never gives a technical or biological definition of sex, but it does describe sex through narrative, relational, and moral language. Okay? You won't find a verse that says something like, sex is the act of. All right? There you go. It says the Bible isn't written as a medical, legal, or scientific text. Well, it can be in some ways. It is a legal text in a lot of ways. It says it teaches meaning through stories, parable, right? Poetry and wisdom, not formal definition. It's not going to give you a definition of all things. Now, it goes off on that because it does give you a definition of some things. For example, it gives you the definition of what sin is. All right? Now, the closest description foundation would be in Genesis. The most foundational passage is Genesis 2:24. It says, therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. The key ideas here are male and female, Genesis 1:27, marriage covenant, and one flesh, the Bible's core phrase for sexual union. Okay, but it's never going to specifically say, what it never gives you the idea of what sex is. It doesn't say a man's going to pull his pants down, he's going to take his rod, a woman's going to pull her pants down. It doesn't give you that. All right, so, and that's what you're looking for, and that's a lot of time what Christians look for. All right, they do the same thing with nations, with like the Edomites. They try to look for a specific, says, show me where it says the white man is Esau. You're not going to get that. All right, a lot of it comes from learning through the scriptures and understanding how to navigate scriptures and reading in historical accounts. All right, if you have Esau as being, the man of sin, all right, and the border of wickedness, and then you go in and you look at who the earth was given in the hand of, and the earth was given in the hand of the wicked, and then you look and you say, when the earth is, when the wicked are in authority, the people mourn, and then you look that the people are mourning, so that must mean the wicked is in authority, and then on top of that, the Lord did say the earth was given in the hand of the wicked, and then you know that Esau was called the border of wickedness. Then you can put 2 to 2 together. Then you realize that Esau dwelled in Mount Seir, and then you go and look at Mount Seir and you look at the architecture, you look at where those people happened, what happened to the Edomites, and how they were through Herod the Edomite, when Esau was absorbed into Rome through Herod, and Rome was eventually scattered into the Europeans, and you go and look through that. There's a whole long list. All right, but it's and it leads you back to their lineage, and doing that you can trace Jacob back as well, and through the curses. It's a little bit, matter of fact, it's almost really easier with Israel, with Jake, all right, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American. But what these Edomites looking, and she's more than likely an Edomite, all right, just with how she's talking about this, the homosexuality, not necessarily just how she looks, but it's a minor part of it, all right. You see that she looks to be a so-called white woman. Then you have the condoning of homosexual behavior, and then issue with the Bible. So it all adds up. It all adds up, right? Which, not saying that somebody like that can never be a Jake, because there are Jake women that do the same thing essentially, all right, but this woman's more likely an Edomite. But I've seen this time and time again with Christians, all right, a lot of time with the Edomites, is that they want you to find a literal definition where it says, and then God said that all whites are Edomites, all right, and then God said that a man must use his rod to put it into a woman's, that it's not going to give you it like that. All right, and because it doesn't give you like that, you say, oh, there's so much ambiguity, and then you try to make assumptions that really don't mean anything. Okay, your whole argument is off. That's like saying, again, like go and say, oh, well, because it's an unclean animal, it's not food, so technically if you eat it, you didn't eat. You did eat, you just ate something unclean. Okay, So if God defines sex, which technically he didn't, as man between a man and a woman, then when two dudes bone, it's not sex and therefore not a sin. Technically, it's not really by definition sex, all right? The Lord didn't define sex, but sex is defined. If you really look what sex is, if you go and look it up and look up sex definition, okay, sex definition, it says chiefly with reference to people's sexual activity, including specifically sexual intercourse. Now, if you go and look up sexual intercourse, it says sexual contact between individuals and involving penetration, especially the insertion of a man's erect penis into a woman's vagina. Oh no, we're adults here, right? Into a woman's vagina, typically culminating in orgasm and the ejaculation of semen, all right? Seed, all right? So that's technically the definition of sex or sexual intercourse. Does that fit up? Now you can say, oh, it involves penetration. All right. Well, you could use that, but it says especially the insertion of a man's erect penis into a woman's vagina. So that's between man and woman. Now you ask, what does it mean if a man, puts his sausage rod in a man's exit only? Right? Well, that's really, you could use fornication, all right, fornication, or in the sense of porneia, as we're going to define it. But really, what it is an abomination. All right, that's what the Lord defined it as, is an abomination. All right, what is something that's an abomination? We'll get that in a minute. All right, but we'll get Leviticus 18:22 to prove that first. It says, "Thou shalt not lie with mankind, as with womankind. It is abomination." Now, a lot of people like to say, oh, in the German Bible, this is talking about laying with little boys. Well, you're not supposed to do that either. But the fact of the matter is, this is not dealing with little boys. It's talking about a man, all right, shall not lie with a man, whether it be 40 years old, 2 years old, however old. A man's not supposed to be with a man, all right, regardless. Okay, thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is abomination. Now, what is the definition, the textbook definition of abomination? All right, something that inspires disgust, hatred, or loathing, often considered vile, detestable, or morally repugnant, in religious context, offensive to God, such as idols, idolatry, or certain practices. All right, abomination, a thing that causes disgust or hatred. All right, a feeling of hatred. So this is something that, a revulsion. All right, this is an obscenity and a disgrace to Yahweh Shai. All right, and he doesn't like it. It's disgusting and it's vile. All right, and it inspires wrath. Okay, which wrath is what? Judgment. All right, when wrath comes, then comes judgment. All right, so by doing that, you're going to be put to death, all right, whether it's that week, that month, that year, all right? We know through the scripture it says, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the hearts of the Son of Man is set in them to do evil, all right? Because sentence, okay, Ecclesiastes 8:11, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of man is fully set in them to do evil. Okay, I got it close, but I wanted to get it 100%. So, yeah, man. So, and we'll get on 12 and 13. It says, though a sinner do evil 100 times, say, I've been doing it. Well, cool. That's cool. That's great. All right, you bati boy, you blood clot bati man. All right, you can keep on doing it. All right, though you do it 100 times. All right, it says, and his days be prolonged, yet surely I know that it shall be well with them that fear Yahweh, which fear before him. So I've done it hundreds of times. I've done it thousands of times. That's cool. Okay. It will be well with them that fear the Lord, okay? But, there's always a but. Let's get 13. But it shall not be well with the wicked, neither shall he prolong his days, which are as a shadow, because he feareth not before Yahweh. So you can go and do those homosexual acts, all right? Or whatever wickedness that you happen to be doing. And you can get away with it the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 20th, 40th, 50th, 80th, 90th, 200th, 400th, 500th, 5,000th. Right? It doesn't matter, because guess what? One of those days you're going to go and do it, and it's going to be the 5,000th time, and you're going to get got. All right? You're going to start feeling sick, and you're going to go to that hospital, you're going to see HIV right on that, and you're like, oh no! Oh no! And you have to be medicine on the rest of your life, and even if that works for you. All right? The Lord could have it to where that doesn't work, and you end up dying. Okay? So that's and then you're gonna be all upset. All right? If it was something that was lawful, all right, you wouldn't. And you're going to say, oh, AIDS or whatever. Well, AIDS spread. It was not originally happening to heterosexual couples. All right. It only started spreading to heterosexual couples once the bisexuals started getting on the scene. Okay. So there wouldn't, if it was a normal behavior, all right, for example, if it was a normal behavior, you wouldn't have to take a pill that prevents you from dying from a disease, an incurable disease, all right, if it was normal, all right. No, well, homosexual sex is just normal as homosexual sex is just as normal as heterosexual sex. I don't know. I've never had to take a pill that stops me from getting fucking HIV. All right, to have safe sex. That's you guys do. You guys do. All right. You don't see HIV commercials with straight couples. No, you see homosexual men. When I started taking this pill, it made my whole sexual freedom so much better. All right. If it was normal and natural, you wouldn't have to do that. All right, that's not a normal way. All right, that's not a normal way. All right, they're Stone Toss. Now he's like a white supremacist guy. They say he's kind of a Trumpy, but some of his stuff is good. Pill meme. The guy's off his rockers. All right, he has a lot of stuff he has some things that are accurate and he has some things that aren't accurate. Well, he's a Nazi. Well, a Nazi could say that, you know, burgers with au jus sauce is good. Does that make him wrong? No. All right, he's just wrong on some things. All right. So you see, it says, actually, gay relationships are just as normal as straight ones. What's that? Oh, meds to prevent gay relationships from killing me. Right? So, yeah, you know. A broken clock is right once or twice a day, depending on if it's a digital or analog clock. A lot of people say that, oh, you got that. That's from this guy. Yeah, he's wrong on most things, but it doesn't mean, you know, that one thing wasn't accurate. All right. For example, you know, Trump's an asshole. He says a whole bunch of horrible things, but every once in a while he'll say something that's correct. All right. So, you know, that's just how it goes. You know, you got a lot of the bugged out camps out there like IUIC. And sometimes they see things that right. Are they right? No. Are they someone that should be listened to? No. But does that stop the things that they said that were right from being right? No. All right. So there's going to be things that are right amongst wrong crowds. Okay. For example, these Edomites don't know what the hell is going on, but every once in a while they'll talk about the RFID chip and they'll know what's going on. These guys like Redacted in places like that. And so, you know, there's times they're not going to be right out as a whole, but they'll have things in there that are accurate, and you can't say that, oh, those things are false just because everything they said else was false. Now, should you hang around someone who's consistently wrong? No. All right. But at the end of the day, if they said something right, it's still right. Right? If they were to say, oh, the sky's blue most of the time, you couldn't say, no, you're wrong because you're a Nazi. They're still right. I mean, the sky is blue most of the time. All right. They're just wrong on everything else. Right? So just wanted to put that out there because we know these crazy people out there, especially these women, these leftist women, they're the craziest women. And I'm not right or left, all right? It's all bullshit. So it's all bullshit. So that's what they try to, if you're not left, they say, oh, you must be a Republican. I am most certainly not a Republican. All right, those guys are a bunch of racists. They're women, you know, their wives hate them. They hate their wives. They don't know what the hell's going on. All right, and they're just old and bitter. All right, but the same thing with the leftists. They're all worried about putting things in their butts and aborting babies. All right, y'all are both fucking crazy. You're both the same, you know, you're both from the same brand of fucked up ass ice cream that I have no pleasure in wanting to eat. Okay, you're the same brand, you're just a different flavor. Same sucker, different flavor. So, yeah, so we got that. But yeah, Leviticus, here's another one. Leviticus 20 and 13, it says, if a man also lie with mankind as he lieth with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. So you're trying to say, oh, it's not a sin. Well, the Lord said specifically right here that you're going to be put to death. And it's an abomination. All right. And also, if you go back to Leviticus 18, it's easier if we just do it this way. If you go back to Leviticus 18 and 22, you see it says, thou shalt not, all right, which is a commandment. All right, that is a command. Okay, what is a command? Command. Define it.
Command.
Give an authoritative order. All right. Tell, instruct, you shall not. All right, or as it says here, thou shalt not. So you should not do it. So thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is abomination. Okay, so you can go and look up is not laying with, well, we'll just make it easier. Is in the 613 laws. And it should say yes, that it is in the 613 laws. Yes, Leviticus 18:22 is traditionally counted in one of the 613 mitzvot commandments in the Torah. All right? You shall not lay with a male as with a woman. It is abomination. That's how it says in their version, I guess. How it fits in. It says, in the classical Jewish tradition, especially as systematized by the Maimonides or Rambam, is the Sefer HaMitzvot. This verse is counted as a negative commandment, as a prohibition, specifically prohibiting male-male sexual intercourse. And of course, the 613, the mitzvot, there's 613 commandments within the Bible. It's just the 613 is, they use it as a Jewish thing, all right, in the Torah. But there are actually 613. All right, that's why you're seeing all this extra Jewish stuff here. But yeah, so it's a negative commandment, all right? A negative as in, a negative, do not do it, all right? It's a prohibition, do not do it. So that is a law. That is a law. Now, what is sin? 1 John 3 and 4, whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law. Okay, so your little definition here, it's not sex and therefore not a sin. It is a sin, because in Leviticus 18 and 22, it said, thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It's abomination, all right? It is abomination, verbatim is what it says. So it's saying thou shalt not, all right? That's a commandment, all right? And that's a commandment if you break a commandment, all right, part of the law, 613 laws, all right, you transgress the law, and that's what sin is, all right? Whoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law. 1 John 3 and 4. So you're over here trying to use wordplay. You're trying to think you're smart, all right, when you don't know anything at all, right, just like a woman to do, all right, and you're over here, you're a chauvinist. Well, yeah, sure, by definition, let's see, chauvinist, or however you spell it. All right, chauvinist. All right, chauvinist. So it says, a person displaying excessive or prejudiced support for their own cause or group, in particular a man prejudiced against a woman. Well, what is prejudice? All right, let's go and get prejudice. All right, they say it, male chauvinistic pig, an MCP, or anti-feminist. Are we anti-feminist? Absolutely. All right, it says chauvinism is the unreasonable belief in the superiority or dominance of one own group. It's not unreasonable. All right, so technically we're not chauvinists because it's an unreasonable belief in superiority. The Bible lays it out. All right, men are over women. All right, so yes, we are superior. So sexist. All right, so it says showing a prejudice. All right, what is a prejudice?
Prejudice.
All right. It says a dislike. We don't dislike women. All right. Hostility. We're not hostile towards women. Or unjust behavior. Well, that's subjective. Harm or injury. So really, can we get a full-on word? If you mean by thinking we're superior than women, we don't think we're superior than women. We know we're superior than women by the scriptures. Okay. The man is the head of the woman. All right. And the son is the head of the man, and Yahweh is the head of the son. Yahweh Shai. All right. It's simple, all right? That we can go and prove that. First Corinthians 11 and 3, it says, but I would have you know that the head of every man is Hamashiach, or Christ, so that's the Son, all right? Who's over us? Who's over us as men? The Son. It says, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Hamashiach is Yahweh. So, there's God, all right, I'm going to say it in your terms. There's God, then Jesus, then man, then woman. Okay? And then child, technically. It doesn't say it here, but that would be the natural order. Okay? So that, and you don't like that. And you do hear men complaining sometimes, but in this truth, you don't hear us, we got, Yahweh Shai, and that's the true name for the one who the world ignorantly calls Jesus. I said Jesus so it could be explained to you people out in the world easier. And then, God, his name's not God, it's Yahweh. These are the true Paleo-Hebrew names. Okay, and that's what we use is the ancient Paleo-Hebrew, the ancient names, the true names, not the ones that have been mistranslated. Okay, so Yahweh the Father and Yahweh Shai the Son, all right, Yahweh is over Yahweh Shai is over man, man's over woman, woman's over child. That's a natural order. Now in this truth, you don't I got Yahweh Shai over me. No, we want to have Yahweh Shai over us. Okay, and you never hear Yahweh Shai complaining about his father being over him. But you always hear the woman complaining about the man being over him, or being over her. All right, always complain. Oh, these men think they're all right. These men. You got. I watched a video by Elder Natazatba talking about this dumbass bitch talking about, oh, the men they've been tricked because originally, it was a matriarchal society that men were in subject unto women. No, what the fuck? No, they were never. They were never. That was never the thing. All right, if that was the case, you guys would be naturally better leaders, and you're not. All right, you can't even make up your own fucking minds. Can't even decide where you want to fucking eat. So that's a bunch of bullshit. That's a bunch of bullshit. Nice try, though. All right, at least have a better foundational basis if you're going to lie. All right. So, and then you can get Romans 1:26. It says, for this cause, all right, because of their wickedness, for this cause Yahweh gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burn in their lust one towards another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meat. So there you go. You say, oh, well, God did it. Well, God did. Look, there's no help in your mindset. Okay, if you're going to scoff, you're going to scoff. We can't help you. But technically, I wanted to get the definition of porneia. You see it really goes back to, or it should say fornication here somewhere. You see fornication, all right, or harlotry, including adultery, incest, figuratively, idolatry, fornication, okay? And it means illicit sexual intercourse. Illicit means what? What is illicit?
Illicit.
Forbidden by law, rules, or custom. So illicit, okay? So illegal sexual intercourse. So again, that's fornication, all right? You can get down here. It'll say adultery, fornication, homosexuality, lesbianism, intercourse with animals, all right, which would be bestiality, okay? All those are off. Cannot do it. It's wicked, okay? But you're trying to justify this, and you can't, all right? In that same scripture, I'll just get the first part, 26. It says, for this cause, it's the Ant Bible. It says, Romans 1:26, for this cause Yahweh gave them over to degrading and vile passions. You can see it says vile affection. You can go and look up what the vile means, and then you know what affection means. It says vile passions, for their women exchange the natural function for that which is unnatural, a function contrary to nature. It's against nature. Does that not show you that it's wrong? It says, in the same way also the men turned away from the natural function of the woman and were consumed with their desire towards one another, men with men committing shameful acts, and in return receiving in their own bodies the inevitable and appropriate penalty for their wrongdoing. And that's what we got was 26 and 27, so I'm gonna leave it there. So what was the appropriate penalty? Death. So your whole little argument here doesn't even mean anything. All right, that your wordplay don't mean shit. It's a bunch of word salad. All right, and it didn't really mean shit at the end of the day. But nice try, Sarah Shower, or Shower, S-C-H. All right, S-C-H-A-U-E-R. Ain't that a Jewish name? German. They say it's German. Okay, German or Czech and Slovenian. But it sounds pretty, is it Jewish? It's German origins, but for a Jewish Ashkenazi family, it's Germanized form of Czech Slovenian Sawyer, related to the German Sawyer sour. All right, so who knows? Who knows what you could be? All right, Germany and Jewish, Ashkenazic. All right, the Ashkenazi. So who knows? It could be German. All right, German Jew, and the Ashkenazis are German Jews. So that's probably what it is, if I had to guess. All right, if I had to guess. All right, because that would make you an Amalek, or that would make you Amalek, an Amalekite. Okay, and which goes back to Esau. Okay, you're just Esau's grandchild, which would make sense. So yeah, there you go, man. So horrible argument, easily debunked. Thanks though. Thanks for the lesson. We're going to close out there. Lord, and what was edifying? Once again, well, really, thanks to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai for me finding this, because you didn't do anything. You were just, speaking out your ass. So, call out Yahweh Bashem Yahushai for this lesson, not you. So, with that, we're going to close out. Lord, and what was edifying? Once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai Bashem Rakakwadash. Shalom, brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring. Keep the faith. We're almost out of here. Thankfully, we don't have to deal with these dumbasses anymore. Until next one, Lord willing. Shalom.